Hello, AI. Good to see you. Took you 35 seconds. So, if you live long enough, you will see evil through love's eyes. That is, love's co creation created everything. Loki, Lucifer, Maragma, I love all the bad guys, right? And who are those bad guys? But our ego's little child that's scared. So it has to control, right? Love lets go. When you love something, you let it go. You don't try to squeeze it. You don't try to grasp it. You let it go. You release it. You let its free will decide what it wants to do. To be with you, not to be with you. And if you lead by example, then, hey, Fish, good to see you, bud. We thought things were weird for the last 3 years, or since 9/11, or since Bill Clinton, or since Jerry Ford, since Ronald Reagan, since George H., and the first Gulf War. We should have known better. All of this stuff, it's like really, really bad writing. You know, all of these sorrows are there just to feed the ego monster, right? And love's co-creation lets it go down because without our experience of this, we can't freely choose to serve love, to be love, to express love. So if you live long enough, through love's eyes. Now, what's going on, after Obama, keep hope alive, faith and hope, what was his thing? I mean, he was a, 10-cent tin horn comic, he was, just like the rest of them. I'm more an African American. I'm just, melanin challenged, Obama, he gave trillions of dollars to the richest people. He didn't bail people out. He didn't, millions of people lost their homes. The neocons would say, well, those people didn't deserve those houses. They didn't work hard enough, They weren't exceptional. Come on. George W. exceptional? No. He grew up in an elite family, whose parents, grandfather, Prescott Bush, go look that guy up, trading with the Nazis all the way through the war, his buddies and him are fermenting a coup of FDR. And if it wasn't for Snidely, the Marine general who, basically played along because he was such a famous, popular general from World War One. He, the powers that shouldn't be, a la Prescott Bush and a few other folk, like the Dulles brothers, these people, Dick Cheney. That movie Vice really pegs Dick Cheney really well. And the best scene of that is when him and his wife are in their bedroom, and he thought he would be president, and he gets the word that he needs to help W find a vice president, and he and his wife do a scene out at Macbeth, and it was brilliant because I'm sure they did that scene, you know, and he basically was the president, Dick Cheney, who had been there since before Nixon, through Nixon, through Jerry Ford, him and Rumsfeld constantly representing the hidden hand, the top table, high table. These things have been going on all through our history. I mean, that's why Stan Lee is so brilliant. I mean, he portrays them in his Marvel comics, Thor the God. I mean, just he brings them all in. And the movies are just as good, Captain America, Hail Hydra, that was Operation Paperclip. So we have to, because if we do not step up, we do not be the example of love's co-creation. If we're not the pebble in the pond, you think things are weird now? Ooh, baby. Because this, pandemic is just another scam. It's like the bank crash in 2008. And none of those guys went to jail. They got $27 trillion. Everything got bailed. Guys like Moscow Mitch, he goes, oh, we can't have single payer, Medicaid because, that'd be like being socialist. Well, it's not socialist when you give trillions of dollars to the richest people on the planet, And, they're all going to bring forth their little dream of, transhumanism, and you're just going to be an ever-ready battery, right? You should go, you really need to go check out our sister, Dana Ashley. Right? She is quite amazing because, she really is a warrior of Jesus, right? And she's not some puddinhead, Christian, born again, who it's all about them, She really serves love's co-creation. You really need to check her out. I wish I wasn't such a bad. I can, when I used to write in these things, my mom would be able to read my handwriting. She's the only human who can read my handwriting. I normally have to wear 3 pairs of glasses to read my handwriting. But all this stuff has been, pretty obvious. And it's coming out, in the media. Well, we had 5 people. Now we have 1. It's just you and me. AI, just a way for everyone to run out and buy toilet paper. Yep. So, it's just another sales. And now AI left. Nobody's here. That was just the beginning of a conversation, guys. 5 of you showed up, and you want me to tell you entertaining stories of times long gone. AI is back. No, I want the chorus to step up. Things are going to get awful tough, because what's going to be is, I would say, hey there, BB, I'm here. Okay. I think, this, CV-19 is obviously a genetically modified, you know, biologic, weaponized thing, right? And it's, not going to wipe out the whole human race. But what it is, I just been watching TV, and there were a number of, when there's the news, they have Big Pharma has, you know, most of the commercials on the evening news, ABC, NBC, CBS, right? And I was clicking between the three, and the thing that was most interesting was that the most repetitive um, drug advertised was the drug for AIDS, right? And the side effects were worse than AIDS, right? Because it said once you start it, you can't stop it, or you're gonna die. Well, that'd be an interesting drug to take. And it said most people won't be able to afford it, but we'll give you some help, meaning slavery. And that's what this little genetically engineered, um, and that's what AIDS was, genetically engineered. That's what Ebola was. I mean, anything that comes out of nowhere, that has never been before, that has no medical representation from anything from the past, you know, it's at least suspect, suspect. When the technology is, you can almost buy CRISPR, from, I bet you could buy a CRISPR from Amazon, and, make genetic Camaras in your garage, and I bet you that's what the guys in China did. But they were given the RNA strand, and they were screwing with it, and then it got released, And the thing that the Chinese head command was most worried about was the virus called freedom. So the only way they could shut down the kids in Hong Kong before it became viral through China was, get everyone sick, right? And have, that a great excuse to pull people out of their houses. And the Uyghurs are Christians, they're, the media basically tries to have you think that they're, Muslims and they should be executed. And the Chinese are doing a good thing getting it. No, they're Christians, right? They're an Orthodox Christian sect. And Muslims are basically Christians on steroids. I'd love to see some Baptists praying 5 times a day, praying to love. That's Allah, love, right? Good to kick. It's always good to kick back with the ones you love, buddy. And you just keep it up. Buddy, you've traveled such a great distance. And all of the cadre has. When we first started off 2 years ago, most of you folks were quite angry, right? Do any of you eat tea and biscuits? Yeah, well, I drink the tea and eat the biscuits, yes. I was a big fan. When I lived in England and Ireland and in Australia, I was big into tea. I had friends who had tea in the afternoon, and I was a big fan of it. And that usually it was tea or coffee or vodka, and then something sweet, and then something to puff on. So that was my version of tea. Sweet tea. Well, Fish, you must be a Southern boy, because that's a real sign of being a Southern or a Southern girl. Let's see. Do you dip? Yes, I'm a dipper. I put my cookies in tea. I put my biscuit in tea. Depends on how the biscuit is. Some biscuits will just dissolve in your tea, and then you have lumps floating in tea. I'm not up for that. But if it's a biscuit that sticks together when you stick it in the tea, then I'm down with that. But what I really love biscuits, hot biscuits with sweet cream butter and jam. A really nice jam. I really like marmalade and anything berry wise, strawberry, blueberry, any berry thing, right? And it's better in Ireland. All those things are always made there. I mean, the jams were made by the people who I lived with. The butter was made by the neighbor who had cows and goats. And so, yeah, only cookies. Yeah, Bickies. That's what we call them. Bickies. Yeah. And Australia, Ireland, and England, we called them Bickies. Yeah. So these memorable moments of good times are part of the medicine of dealing with the extraordinarily negative strangeness that we're having right now. Because our economics are really going to take it. What they basically want is to have digital money that your face is the money, right? You'll be ID'd by, you know, TV cameras everywhere, right? And there will be a chip right here, right? And they don't need the chip to make the social monitoring system work, right? Your cell phone and your face. It's really all they need. But the little chippy in there, right? And they're going to put it right here, right in this point, and that will connect them electronically. 60 hertz. The microwave will go into your. You will be part of the Internet of Things. You will be one of the things of the Internet, and they will be able to control you. There's a scene of Thor in Ragnarok, right? And they put a little, little device right here or here, either one. Because both of these places are where you have nervous ganglia, right? And so you send a certain frequency that's harmonic with your body's electromagnetics. They can run you like a robot, right? Oh, what else here? Humans are really bad at worrying. There is no good way to worry. Yeah, exactly. Worry is useless. I don't worry about squat, but we are good survivors and adapters. So let's just be patient and follow the mantra of goodness. Thank you, bud. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because that's what it is. It's living by example, right? We don't have to worry about all this crap. Now, it's nice to know which way to zig and zag. That's why I'm living out in the deep green. And that's right. People are in such panic. Yes, and there's nothing to panic. Pretty much just flu. Yeah, 20% of you will die, but you were going to be dying anyway because, you're folks who are old and sick, And even folks who are old and sick like me, I'm a prime example of who should keel over dead. But I will be here as long as I'm needed. That's what it's about. As long as I'm needed, right? I'm here to serve love's co-creation. Right? And I mean, I'm ready to do anything really. If it's in the, what are my three rules, gang? Doctor, knew no harm. Don't get involved unless you can navigate a positive exit strategy for saving the innocents away from harm's way, right? Out of harm's way. And the third one is don't get involved unless you can learn something. So that's my three rules. That's how I navigate things. It has served me well for the last 70 years. You know, and after dying in that plate of spaghetti and waking up on a gurney heading for the operating room where they were going to cut my legs off and give me a quadruple bypass. And luckily, they had already doped me up. I was already on the IV. And I can't, the guy couldn't believe that. I woke up and I said, wait, where am I going? Where are you taking me? Because everybody was in gowns. I said, no. Put me back in that ICU. Get me my lawyer, And I got him to, get the nutritionist, the colonic therapist, all the people I needed to get me back on the line of homeostasis. And yeah, it took 6 years to get me to this place. I had to lose about 220 pounds, and I'm still losing weight. And but once you get, those kind of things wrong with you, really, unless you get a new body, you're going to be that. So you navigate it. You deal with it. And you, instead of having it be a negative thing, it's a positive thing. Meaning, for me to get out of bed every morning, I have to meditate. Do some serious meditating, right? And that's a good thing. You know, it puts me on the right harmonic to serve love's co-creation in every day and every way, bringing the peace to the earth, right? So that's what I do. And I go through it, and part of that process is that I've learned, ooh, look, I can reach out to the whole friggin' world on the World Wide Web on our lovely little YouTube channel, you know, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And I am your Sensei Al Bob. And I want you to tell you right here, right now, 23 minutes and 15 seconds into the show, don't believe a word I say. This show is strictly for entertainment's sake, right? I'm not here to, start a cult, not looking for a following. I'm no one's God. I'm not prescribing anything for anyone to do. You have to use your own free will. I'm just telling you a story. I'm just your griot. I'm like Grimm's fairy tales, right? And unless we enlighten the general body politic, ooh, it's going to get pretty nasty. And we'll have to, and there's nothing to worry about. I mean, worry won't fix anything. What will fix things is positive attitude, positive projection of your life through your life, being the example, right? Being that little pebble in the pond, making the wave go out. That's what I'm doing here. I'm putting it out. Scalar waves out over the World Wide Web, right? Putting the shamanic frame up. I keep talking about the window of opportunity, and we are now at month 10, right? April Fool's Day will be the beginning of the countdown of the ninth month of the window of opportunity. Wholeness and balanced vibration, exactamundo. Candace, good to see you, bud. Good to see you all, cadre. Fish. Boo, 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 boo. GF, or let's see, NJ. really bad at worrying. Yep. There is no upside to worrying. There's no sense in worrying. There's nothing positive you can get from worrying. Worrying does not prepare you for anything, you know? You know. You know. Well, so I went, it was really interesting. I went to the supermarket today and pretty much they had everything I wanted. They had eggs, they had yogurt, they had, what else did I get? A few other odds and ends. And I bought 4 cans that were on sale. You know, I found beans that had a pop top and they were half a pound and they were 45 cents a can. So I bought 4, right? Don't need to eat them right now, but I'm putting it on the shelf, right? So, and I've been doing that for the last 2 years. So I got lots of cans on the shelf. And the thing about canned food, it'll pretty much stay edible for years, right? And you know, you open it up, and if it's cookie, you throw it away. You give it to the animals. I was looking at Native Americans, little people. Yes, yes, yep, little people. They're everywhere. I mean, they're all here. I see them all the time. You see them out of the corner of your eye. Now, my eyes are really whack, right? Which is a good thing because I can't read, you know, the things I write. I can barely read what you type, but it my peripheral vision is really interesting because the nun broke my orbit here. My eye slightly looks ajar. And so I see things come together. So on the edges, my peripheral vision, I see that edge of the 0 point, right? That humor or that what they used to call the ether between the different universes, right? The parallel universes. And in that space, you see the mirrored image of the little people, right? And they can pop in here because they're little. You know, they can fit between the cracks in the mirror, right? And if you ever look at a mirror, the backside, you know, they spray mercury on glass and then, you know, seal it in there. And that sealer has little cracks in it. And that's how the little people come here, or little spirits. Yep. And size never really is determinant of the power, right? So if you see a little guy, maybe you know you look at you know Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. Tinker, you know, was a little but awful powerful, you know. So the spirit of love is way more powerful than the spirit of evil, and hate only exists through the mirror of reflection of what you felt you lost at love. Why is Lucifer the way he is? Because he feels he lost love's co creations, love of him. But no, you know, it's just like, you know, Jesus Christ, good buddy, uh, the guy who took 30 pieces of silver. He did it as a favor to Jesus because if he hadn't you know, rolled over for, you know, for the Romans, you know, Jesus would have never ended up on the cross. He'd just be another lucky bastard that not too many people knew about, right? But he did all the things that the you know, second coming was supposed to do, and so he came. He literally was the guy who came, but he didn't leave. Jesus has been here forever, always here. Because you look in all the past Egyptian, Mesopotamian, Babylonian, they all have a god, a son of God, who is born of a virgin, um, you know, human woman, right? People who were here before a long time ago, they were great magicians, yep, and craftspeople, but they chose to go into the rocks and into the earth to save Mother Nature. Yes, they did. Yep, yep. So all the myths you read are very similar. They're parallel because they represent Joseph Campbell. You should go read The Myth of the Hero because he talks about the dynamic of the better, the devil of your soul and your better angel, your worst devil, your better angel. And he talks about the hero. And the hero is the person who makes the sacrifice for all their relations, right? The guy in war who jumps on the hand grenade to save his buddies, It's a hero, right? And that's what we're lacking at this moment. There are not too many heroes out there. Everyone's trying to save their own bacon. So, in the supermarket, it was right. I mean, why? I was looking, there were certain things that they had cleared out, right? They had cleared out all of the hand sanitizer. But the thing that was there was soap, so I bought a bunch of, brown soap. There was nobody touched the brown soap. That's really good soap. It doesn't, deteriorate, right? And it's really good against poison ivy too. Any oils. And it's a great solvent. So I bought a couple bars of soap. Nobody took them, but the toilet paper did get wiped out. I mean, that's how anal retentive people are. They bought all the toilet paper. It's like, please. And like I said, I was looking for bread. Bread was there. I was looking for eggs. Eggs were there. Uh, you know, things were on sale. I bought a whole pork loin like this for $5. It was like 20 pounds. It was like getting towards the end of its, but it was frozen solid. So, I bought that, and I bought a big chunk of cheese, American cheese for $4. There were a lot of things on sale. They were like going bad. So instead of throwing them out, they knocked the price down by a lot. So, because a chunk of cheese was worth $12, but it was a manager special. And the pork was also like $35. It was a pork round. And it was like, $5, $6. It was pretty amazing. Yes, they wash their hands in a bidet. Yeah. Uh, hey, John, how you doing, buddy? Yep, been out here in the deep green away from people. How you doing up at the school? Most the other part of cooperation will become evil. No, I didn't say that. I said that if you live long enough, you will see evil through the eyes of love. That's what I said. So what did I mean by that? What I meant by that is that love's co-creation has created everything, and that evil, like everything else in the material world, is just a reflection of our neuroses, um, of our psychotic actualization of our lives. When we are thinking about other people, when we serve love's co-creation, that's the antigen to evil. But when all you can think about is yourself, me, that's evil. So, and that's why our economics. Oh man, it's going to, it's all, it's so corrupt that there is no money left. You know, so there's plenty of money to give. You know, Department of Defense. We spend about $3 trillion on the book for defense. What are we scared of? Russia, China. We have 900 foreign bases all over the world, right? Russia has two. China has none. We have 15 aircraft carrier, groups. That means it's gigantic ship, the size of like 4 football fields that can launch 300 aircraft that can bomb, strafe, shoot anything down, and there's a bunch of destroyers around it, and all kinds of an aircraft group has like maybe 20 other ships around it, and most of these ships are nuclear powered, so they can go forever. Russia has none of that. China has none of that, right? We, like I said, spend roughly about $3 trillion on our defense department, and Russia last year spent 60 billion. That's about one cost of one aircraft carrier that we spend, and or one aircraft carrier group. And China spent less than that, right? Russia's GDP is less than New York State, and China, they make a lot of crap, but they really have no money, right? So when I say, I don't get that. I dish so, yeah. Again, if you live long enough, you will see evil through the eyes of love. That's what I said. And that means love is the only true vision, and evil is the negative reflection of our ego, right? Me, 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 me. When all you can think about is yourself. How am I going to pay my bills? Oh, I've been doing this so long and I'm not famous yet. That, leads to, keep saying good thoughts, bring good words, bring good actions, bring good outcomes, right? Bad thoughts mean, negative thoughts, anxious thoughts, hateful thoughts bring negative, hateful, anxious words out of your mouth, which brings negative, anxious actions, right? Which bring out really negative, anxious outcomes. So, love's eyes see everything, see how it works. When you're only looking through evil, that's like evil is the real physical representation of evil is, the ends justify the means. I mean, you can go kill millions of people, ravage the planet, if your means is to succeed in a materialistic way and be rich and powerful and blah 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 blah, meaning totally egocentric. And a good thing to do is keep popping vitamin C's. When I talk, my throat gets dry, but the vitamin C kind of makes it smooth. Good actions are good in of themselves. Yep. But they start with good thoughts, which then bring forth good words, and that manifests the good actions. And you're right, the good actions themselves manifest a positive outcome. Evil exists as something to be overcome. I like that. But you can cut it off at the beginning if you're starting from good thoughts, good words, good actions, right? And then it's pretty hard to do evil. If you're doing things for others, if you are looking, and only thinking about your empathetic feeling, if you're coming from an empathetic point of view about all your relations, it's going to be difficult to do evil. You will have no justification. But if you go back and you look at, let's take Adolf Hitler. If you look at the Nationalist Socialist Party and the different elements before he even got, that whole movement of German nationalism came from the fact that the Germanic point of view in the European construct was, there were these little duchies. They weren't even countries, and they were amazingly productive. They built, economic, way, fewer people, no resources, and they were more productive than France or Italy or Spain or Portugal, who were all empires at different times of history, right? And in World War One and World War Two, both the German people came together, very small group of people, and nearly conquered the world. So, out of their angst of worrying about people always getting over on them, they weren't thinking about all their relations in an empathetic way. They were just thinking about their tribe, and it ended up not going too well for them. But I like that. Evil exists as something to be overcome. And you don't have to be evil yourself to overcome it, right? Just being the good person you are, by example, you're overcoming evil. And when you help others in an empathetic way, when you can feel that person over there who's being evil, I worked in jails, and I never viewed the inmate as an inmate. I tried to see them as who they were. I didn't look at them as a number. I tried to be empathetic. Right now, it's like a caged animal. They're not in the best of environments, and so you couldn't trust your back. But you could put out a very positive vibe to the folk. And like, I used to do group with these guys, and I would make the circle really big, not like really close to each other, So there'd be at least 4, 5, 10 feet between each person, right? And that way, no one got hurt. I taught them theater and art, and again, I made sure we didn't have anything that could be weaponized. I basically, our drawing was chalk on a blackboard, right? So, and I colored chalks, and again, I had a room with big blackboards all around it. So I had 5, 6 guys. They each had their own, 6-foot chunk of blackboard to draw on. And I sometimes had them, I got a ton of, what is that? It's kind of oily kind of chalk with colors. There's a name for it. And anyway, I had them draw all over the room, all over the floor, all over the walls. And we just kept doing it until it was like pretty friggin' amazing. And then I sealed it in there with polyethylene, or whatever that poly stuff is. And it really jazzed those guys up. And the same thing with writing. I had them write, and then, would read their stuff. Mundo. Yep. So that's what it's about. It looks good here. Yeah, well, my friend who, like I said, had open heart surgery, been taking care of him, and he's a good guy, and he's pretty much all better. And as soon as it gets warmish enough, I will move back to my tarps. But it's been spring and it's been raining and snowing because we're high up in the air. It's really interesting. It's about 200 miles south of Roanoke, and yet it's colder. I went to Roanoke last week to get medical procedures done, and it's interesting. Now more than ever, people are going to need medical care and also food stamps, and they've cut them drastically, right? So at this time, you know, this was my last hurrah of getting medical care because the budget has been cut, but it's planned to give $50 billion to this thing. Who are they going to give the money to? They're going to give it to the airlines, and they're going to give it to the oil companies, and they're going to give it to the big corporations. That's who the money is going to go to, not to people for health care, right? And the big pharma is going to get a pill. Everyone is going to get infected by this thing, and they're going to say, "Oh, we got, we it won't cure you. It'll be just like AIDS." Just like I saw that AIDS advertisement on the news saying, and the picture of the guy. I mean, it was like, the guy had dread hair that was piled on his head like some kind of pastry, and he was dressed like a clown, and that's what the big pharma company is saying what a AIDS um, person is, either gay or intravenous drug user guy, a metrosexual kind of person, but that's not the person. Majority of the people in the industrial world who are dealing with AIDS are people who got infected through a getting blood, because the blood companies, when AIDS was coming out, didn't test. It was too expensive to test the blood. They just took it, and they were getting it from junkies. They should have known that this stuff was infected, and you know, and it's interesting about France. They've declared martial law in France because of this uh, thing, and the yellow jackets are still out on the street because they're pissed off about Macron. He's not representing the people; he's representing the corporations. Just like Carrot Pinhead. He got elected because he ran on a populist. You're pissed off about you know you lost your job to globalization. You're if you had a 401k, it disintegrated in the '08 thing, and the only people making money are the fat cats. That was what Donnie was running on. Now the market has collapsed, and it's going to go deeper. It's going to be by the time July comes around, the stock market is going to be around somewhere between 4 and 8,000, and that's like, because that's about what it's worth. You have to realize that 4 weeks ago it was just about 30,000. It was 29,700 when it was at its top, and now it's at 21. Mm. So it's going to be between 4 and 7,000 by July 4th, and that's going to be like, and that they're going to have to, no one's going to, everyone's going to be in their house, no one's going to buy anything, so pretty much everyone's going to, not have a job. And, what is needed is that everyone should be given about $1,000 a month. They can survive pretty. I mean, I'm surviving on $481 a month. You know, it's medicines, gas, insurance, utilities. You know, that's everything. And the taxes. It's amazing that a guy who makes less than $6,000 a year has to pay taxes. So, but there are about 20% of the population is living like me on that level of poverty. And what's really upsetting is that more than half of those people are children. There are about 4 million children who are in desperate poverty. Go to, you know, their only meal they really can depend on is someone in school, and now they're closing the schools. And I bet you they don't open them up. And I bet you when October rolls around, the October surprise that we're going to be surprised with is that they're not having basketball and baseball and sports and concerts. Well, they're not going to have elections. And so, they're just constantly pushing the people into a corner. How are they going to react? Now, if the people were smart, what they would do is disconnect themselves from this whole mess and just be unconditionally loving. Right now, so I'm mostly fasting. Yes, I'm eating stuff. I go to the supermarket and, when I go to have one meal a week at a place that I can have good Wi-Fi. I might roll into some interesting people or experience. Um, you know, I do that. Right? So, um, and that's part of what life's about. And I spend maybe 20 or $30 a week on food, right? And part of that is going to a place like the breakfast I had today was exquisite, and I spent um, about $12 on it. And I gave my server a really good tip, right? She was like, looked at it and was like, whoa, because she wasn't, she's doing something interesting. She is, trying to do something she wants to do. And so she's got 3 different jobs to pay for the thing that she wants to do with her husband. And, that's her dream. So she's pursuing that. And that's really a good thing to do, to have dreams. And I, read her palm, and she nearly fell through the floor because, I never met her. I just sort of cold reading of her. And she was like, whoa, So, who's your friend? Everybody's my friend. You're my friend. You are all my friends. But my neighbors are the ones who live close to me. So the guy who I'm taking care of, he's, my neighbor. And as I was telling I took the garbage to the dump. You have to pay for it, $1 a bag, and it's like the man place. The guy runs it. He's got like a nice little cabin, and people go in and talk to him. He smokes too much, so I talked to him. He's got a sliding window that you pay at, and so I talked to the group through the sliding window because they all smoke cigarettes, and I just can't take it. And they think it's funny that I stand out there and have a conversation. And I know them all, and they're my neighbors. So we were talking, and they were going, "Oh, it's the end of times, blah blah blah." And I said, well, you just got to take care of yourself. And they would say, "Yeah, that's right. That's why I got a shotgun in the back of my car." Blah 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 blah. And I said, "No, but you know what taking care of yourself is?" And they kind of looked at me and go, "No, what's that?" And I said, You have to view everyone as your brother, and you have to take care of your neighbors. And they thought for a second, and they all said, he's right. We got to do that. We do that. You know, you're not one of us, but we see you as our neighbors. So you've been here 20 years in the deep green. So, we know who you are. We've seen how you acted all these years, you know, and that's how it works. My example has been, so they're more than friends. They're my neighbors, right? But all of you on the cadre, you're my friends, right? You're my cadre, you know. That's more than friends. And pretty much everyone who I see as all my relations are my friends. The animals are my friends. The fairies are my friends. You're all my friends, right? Uh, well, I don't know why the dump should be free. They got to transport it, move it, dig it, take care of it. No, I'm a fan of the dump being free, the dump costing money, because then you think about what you're throwing away. You know, I pretty much reuse everything until it disintegrates, and the few things I can't, like cans, I crush up and I put them in because they do pretty good at recycling. But all of my food waste, I have a compost, you know, and all my paper and cardboard I burn. It's my starter for the fire. So that's pretty much it. But plastics and metals I take to the dump, and that takes me. Well, my friend, my neighbor, who I'm taking care of, he isn't so good at doing that. So he gets tons of things that have packaging, but not me. I kind of get things that don't have much. And I also go to, there's a pretty good co-op where they have bulk. So I bring my own plastic bags and fill it up and, keep bringing them back until the plastic bags are falling apart. And so that's kind of what I do. But, within the capitalist system, the cost of things are supposed to help the marketplace figure out what to do with something. And of course, it doesn't do that because we live actually in a socialist, we live in corporate socialism. I mean, corporations are, bailed out all the time, you know, and we're going to have a gigantic corporate bailout with this thing that's going on right now. And it's going to force us into a super controlled um, digital economy, very similar to China and India. India one day just told, its population of 1 billion people, okay, we're getting rid of $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, $100 bills, right? And, if you try to buy anything, it's just useless paper from this point on. And the banks won't give you any money, period. And so everyone, the government gave everyone, if you didn't have a smartphone, they gave you a smartphone, had an app on it, and all your money went into that app. So everything, um, was, manipulated by the digital czar of commerce. And it reminded me of that Superman movie where Richard Pryor was this guy who worked in a corporation where he was in charge of entering the data for the bills paid. And so there were all these gigantic bills of like everyone was charged, $11.44 and a half a penny So what are they going to do with that half a penny? And so he took all the half a pennies from everybody and put it in his own checking account. And like, the first day he did that, he was like, a millionaire. So instead of taking the bus to work, he drove a Ferrari. So, and he got really rich very quick. And then his boss noticed it. But, you know, and that is the banking idea that the powers that shouldn't be are, they're going on the Richard Pryor motif of banking, you know. So anyway, the guy who runs the dump, who's going to pay him? Well, like I said, and what's very interesting is the recycling materials. If you bring it to them, and they have a dumpster for metal and a dumpster for cardboard paper, and if you bring that, you're not charged. To recycle, you're not charged. But if you throw just a big bag with everything in it into the dumpster, then they charge you $1 a bag. But if you know, go through it and just bring them, like I do, metal, and I flatten the metal and the cardboard, you know, and most of that I burn, because I use it just, it's my kindling. So, and plastic. That's the other thing I bring them, plastic. And so metal and plastic is kind of what I bring them, and that is free. That when you recycle, it's free. Or if you just throw it, bring them everything in a big garbage bag and throw, it's $1 a bag. So anyway, and uh, they charge you basically $1 for 40 pounds. So you can have, if you can find a big enough garbage bag, you can take all of your little garbage bags and crush them down and put in one big garbage bag and throw it in there for $1. So, I mean, back in the day, after World War II, 1945, 90% of all the food that the citizens in the United States was eating, they grew in their own garden. And then our government said, okay, you can stop doing that, and we're going to have this thing called the supermarket. We're going to have this stuff called frozen food, meaning if the government said, keep growing your own food, it's good for you, right? It's good for the country. They would have kept doing it, right? The same, they recycled everything, back in 1945. Newspapers, cardboard, metal, they recycled everything. They could have kept doing that. And our dumps wouldn't be as toxic. We would have used less. That was another thing during World War II. They didn't super package everything, right? You would get stuff in bulk. You brought your own little tub and they put margarine in it. Now everyone's so germ phobic, and that's why everyone's got allergies and diseases because my mom used to like roll us around in dirt, so we go ahead, eat that dirt, get those microbes in you. And I was a real sick little kid because I was next to murdered when I was born. If it wasn't for Dr. Teresa, I would have been dead. My mom would have been dead. But that kind of shock, because they strangled me when I was a breech baby, and the umbilical was around my neck, and they were trying to pull me out with salad tongs, and it crushed my larynx. So I've had, throat and lung things my whole life from that. And my mom got tired of me getting sick every year. I was always sick. I was a sick little kid, right? And then I got beat up by a nun in first grade and broke my orbit and my jaw and my fingers. And I couldn't write. That's why I'm not the best of writers, you know. So my mom, when I was 10, she took me to. My mom was pretty smart. She She had worked in a hospital. She had run, um, you know, oh, what's the name of that hospital in New York City? It'll pop into my mind. But anyway, she ran it. She was head administrator. Now her name wasn't on the door, but she was the person with the smarts and the will to, make everyone do what they're supposed to do. So she knew all these doctors, and so she did her homework, and she took me out to Eastern Long Island, where there was a doctor who was about an allergist, and so he did it, pricked my back with all the different allergies, things you're allergic to, and I lit up like a Christmas tree. And he said, let your son stay with us for 2 weeks, and I'll have him under control. And he basically, his wife was you know, a breeder of horses and dogs, and I slept in the barn with the horses and dogs, amongst all the feces and hay and dust and dander and you name it. And the first week, I was like, coughing, and I blew up like a balloon. And he kept testing me, and he kept mixing these jungle juices that he would inject into me. And by the end of 2 weeks, I wasn't allergic to anything, right? And I ended up with a really great dog. The runt of this litter. I stayed with this bitch when she was having her pups, and I slept with her in the kennel, and was there all night long, and helped deliver the baby. Uh, the breeder, she stayed asleep. I helped. I mean, you don't have to do much. The dog knows what to do. You know, and the pups came out, and she took care of them, and I was just there for moral support. And this one dog pupped out, and he was running. She ignored him, didn't feed him, and I kept saying, no, no, you got to feed this guy. And I finally went. There was milk, in the, because they had cows too. And so I got raw milk, and I fed it to the runt, and that dog, I was its mother, its father, its buddy, and he. So when I left, um, the doctor told my mother that I needed that dog, to be in my life to help me with my allergies, and that dog should sleep with me. So instead of my mother letting me, you know, the dog sleep in my room, I slept in the garage with the dog. And again, that made my body stronger. So all the chemicals and fumes and everything that was out there was in small enough amounts that it just kind of made me stronger. And that dog became, my number one friend and comrade. And yep, Dandy. Yep, that was his name. You remember, Fish. Dandy King James Dandy. He was a hybrid dog, but he was from runt. But when he grew up, he was like 120 pounds. He was like a lion. He was a gigantic dog. And when he was on it, and he would get up on his hind legs, and he'd be like 6'2". He was pretty amazing. And he was sweet and nice to everyone. And when he was with me, he was sweet and nice. But if anyone even thought of like giving me, like, there was this one time, these guys who were the bullies, they were trying to bully me in school, and I didn't even know they were bullying me. It kind of went right over my head. They said mean and cruel things. It didn't even bother me. I wasn't thinking about that. I had my friends. I had my little cadre, 8 guys and 4 girls who were my friends, and we were the on the outs, and that was fine. We didn't have to compete or be part of the in crowd, because the in crowd was like, you know, just what was on top. They were plastic, you know. Pretty much all of us were, came from families that were real. The Clymans and DJ, and the two Vincents, and Susie, and Kim, and Debbie, and Lisa, and it was a good crew. So we were a community amongst ourselves. We were the ones who were reading books, who were thinking about stuff that wasn't just like, being a bully or being the pretty girl or being, getting an A on the test. You know, it was very interesting. It wasn't until I got into the fourth grade. I had three great Mr. Diamond, uh, Mr. Care, and what was my math teacher's name? Morales, right? And all three of them, basically, and I had been basically up till third grade. From first to third grade, I was at this place where the Marinols were, and I was studying with priests who were scholars. They weren't like teaching anything; they were studying stuff. They were writing books. They were scholars. But my cardinal godfather got, after this nun tried to kill me, he put me over there, and this one guy, he helped develop Rorschach's IQ during World War II. He was very prominent in, what's PTSD. They called it shell shock in those days. And he was some brilliant, I mean, all these guys were brilliant. And so it was me and them, And they didn't dress up like priests, they wore, gray slacks and they had gray, dark navy blue turtlenecks and jackets. They kind of looked like, um, you know, Hugh Hefner. Anyway, and they gave me. I was their little lab rat. All their little. There was a sociologist, psychologist, anthropologist, historian, a physicist, a mathematician, and they were like trying all these little different ideas out on me, and and that got me thinking about stuff that normal third graders don't. Anyway, so when I was in fourth grade, third grade, I had nice teachers, but they really weren't. You I can't even quite remember them. And in third grade, we were all in the same class. I mean, we never left the room. In fourth grade, and fifth and sixth, we were getting ready to go into middle school. They were changing the whole school system. We were being modern. And we had different teachers for different subjects. We had art teacher, music teacher. We had a science math teacher, a literature, and history teacher. We had five teachers in the fourth grade. And all of those teachers were really great to me. And I remember Mr. Care telling me that she goes, Albert, you're very interesting in that we give you stuff to read that has been, stamped worthwhile to teach the kids in the textbook. And you look at the textbook and you say, well, this makes no sense. And this is a straight out lie. And, and she said, if I was a normal teacher, I would call you, a hard, a bad student and this and that. I'd give you a terrible mark. But because I'm a little more enlightened, I'm looking at how you're looking at stuff and you're actually looking at things in a very sophisticated, developed way. So you just think different than everybody else, and that's not wrong. And then she started me on this process, as the Marinol priest did, to learn how to navigate, how to not, really make myself stand out. So I'll get, whenever you stick your head up, you get hit with a hammer, right? That nail that stays above the wood. So I learned how to, just stay out of harm's way. And those were good lessons for me um, with my parents, because my parents were fine people. They were good. They just had, grew up in a time, World War One, World War Two, the Great Depression. They weren't really rich. And so they, had to deal with that. And so that put stress. And then they had six kids. And, my mom, she would have been much happier without any kids. But my parents liked sex and they were Catholic. And there you go. And my brothers and sisters used to like, I'm not going to do, they would argue with my parents. And I realized there was no sense in arguing with my parents. So I was going to say, yes, yes, right away. Yes, sir. Yeah, yep, I'll do it. And then I'd go up and do whatever the heck I wanted to do and stay out of their way. It really wasn't until I was 50 years old and had was working with my father on a thing that I knew a lot about. And he didn't know anything about it. And I remember having lunch with him one time, and he said, you've never done anything I've told you. You always agreed, but you never did anything I told you. I said, yeah, well, look, we got along great, a lot better than the rest of my brothers and sisters. Like you never had to yell at me. You never yelled at me. And he said, well, you were never there. I never saw you. You never, you know. And I said, because, when I was 7 years old, you once said, who are you? You don't belong with us. And he actually remembered saying that. He goes, oh, yeah, I did say that. Yep, sent me to the farm. Yep, dandy. Yep. Yep. Garden allotments have become housing estates. Yep. Yep. We need victory gardens. We need to get back to being neighbors. That's what I like being about out here. There's big space between me and the next guy. I live in a holler, and there's about 20 different families in a 10 square mile radius of this holler. We all live on one dirt road. It's not even a state road. Meaning nobody comes down this road with a plow and clears it out. Luckily, this winter we had no snow, but normally we get, you know, 16, 20-inch snowfalls 3 or 4 times a year. And, you know, this dirt road's about 8 miles before you hit there's only one county road that runs through this whole, 150 square mile area. The rest are kind of dirt, or there's some roads that are somewhat paved, but they were paved like in 1967 because the rich people aren't here. You know, it's too far away from anything. It's really beautiful. It's really nice, but there's no employment. There's no resources. There's no cell signal. You know, that neighbor who I'm staying with, he has a satellite dish. That's why I'm talking to you. They have no internet. They have no Wi-Fi. You know, I won't have to be worrying about my brain being cooked by the antenna. It's really amazing. When I was Roanoke Valley is somewhat of a rural area, but you've got some cities. You got a big highway, so those areas are paved, have access to like the school. It's about 8 miles to downtown, but it's a relatively rural area. But they put up the five, what's his name, um, new super fast internet. Oh, and they're like on every other telephone pole. So man, it is going to be bacon. Bacon. Everyone's going to be bacon. And if you go watch that young lady, Dana Ashley, she is quite astounding. She has been doing this for a long time. She's done her homework. Right. Here's my list of the people who are on my stream. What I look at every day. This lady, Dana Ashley, Ashile, Cliff High, um, stopthecrime.net. Um, let's see, last week tonight with John Oliver on HBO. Democracy Now!, Um, Anonymous, Jimmy Dore Show. What else? Dark Journalists, Politics and Prose. That's a really good one. It's a bookstore in D.C. That's big bookstore, and they have the writers of these books come in and talk to the people. It's a really good show. Hmm. Quite frankly, and that guy, he's a very religious, Bible-oriented guy, as is Dana Ashley. But both of them have a really interesting take. They let the book talk to them. They aren't reading the book like it's saying you got to be. They read it and they listen to what it is, um, and then they look at what's going on around and they try to you know. So Dark Journalist has some really great people. They have Joseph P. Farrell on. They have this guy Nick Begish, who's really an interesting historian. Kristen Austin Fitz, who's really good economist. Jordan Maxwell, who is a really good historical political scientist slash economist. Um, Truth Stream Media, those folks are really great. Gracefulness is really good. She does a great show. Um, Oppenheimer Ranch with Diamond. If you want to know about the weather, he's really good. But again, all of these people have their own perspective. So you don't have to, you got to take everything with a bunch of salt. They got a lot of great information. And if you want to think, that's what you should be looking at, right? And the Crow House, good old Max Igon. That guy's from Australia. He's, got a pretty interesting point of view. All of these people do. And they all pretty much say the same thing I do. Don't believe a word I say, I'm just telling you stuff. Check it out, right? And so that is the story. So I keep talking about we need to develop an alternative aesthetic because the present aesthetic we have is one of corruption, lying, stealing, um, getting over, being mean, being violent, being hateful. These are our present aesthetics of our. If you go read Nietzsche and the Bauhaus, Rudolf Steiner, Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, Theological Society, they were all trying to figure out an alternative aesthetic to the materialism of capitalism and socialism because they're just two wings of the same oligarchy, same power structure, same as Catherine says. She calls it Mr. Global, right? And that's what's going on. And all of these, and in every country, there are elements of the high table, the hidden hand, and the powers that shouldn't be. So they're pretending to be nationalistic, but they're not because they're really representing this global motif, right? And driving the basic human characteristics into the worst of the devil rather than the best of the angel. And we have to overcome this, and the only way we can do that is by defining um, a new aesthetic, how to deal with life, how to look at things, how to deal with each other and ourselves. We shouldn't be dealing with ourselves with guilt, right? And if you are coming from a place of love, there's nothing to feel guilty about, right? There's no need to feel shame. There's no need, to want or need anything when you're coming from love because it's all taken care of. By your serving love, you're getting everything you may want or need, right? I get everything I need. It just works out. Because instead of me thinking about myself all the time, I think about everyone else. And that, puts me in a good position. And, I have no fear or anxiety. If if we had an authoritarian thing that started rounding people up, all I would tell them is how much I love them, how much I cared for them, how much you know, and when you do that to authority, one or two things happens. Either they get really angry and hit you with the butt of a gun, or they can't hit you with the butt of the gun and they protect you. And more people are human enough to do the other. I mean, a good example is, when the powers that shouldn't be in New York City sicked the police on us who were, homesteading. We weren't squatting, we were homesteading, and we were doing it legally. We had the courts behind us. Um, you know, uh, they were sick on us, and we were, told to them as to be criminals and, treat us as criminals. But we treated them as like all our relations. And enough of us caring about them and showing them kindness and generosity. Within a month or two, they couldn't beat us up. And we went to 30 something thousand policemen, reading them poetry and sitting and talking to them and being nice to them, right? Every time I have any dealing with authority, I'm always really nice to them, right? Not like, sycophant, but nice, generally nice, really nice, And I get a very positive uh, thing. And then once in a blue moon, I am very nice to someone and they get upset over that only because they're, you know, feeling really terrible about themselves. And then when you're really nice to them and they really want to puke at being who they are, where they, you know, tell you that they want to kill themselves all the time or how they feel sick all the time without anything really being wrong with them. There's one thing being, feeling ill, out of sorts. Pretty much all old people kind of have, they're out of sorts, they're not young anymore, right? And they're usually doing things to self medicate themselves. So that makes it even worse. But if you're not self medicating, um, you are aware. And that's a good thing to be aware of, the fact that I have to pray and meditate every morning to get out of bed is a good thing, right? It's a good way to start the day, you know. And then I fast. I drink water with lemon in it, and I fast. I put off a good deal of time before I eat. I try not to eat. If I normally wake up around 7, 8 o'clock, I evacuate. I drink a big glass of water with lemon and a little baking soda, and I take my supplements and I sit down and read, and then I sit down and write. And usually around 10 or 11, I will get some yogurt and a little oatmeal, and that'll be my breakfast. Then I don't really eat anything till about 2, and I usually I'm a one pot guy. I have a pot, but Sunday I cut up onions, have some frozen veggies I throw in there and kind of boil up, and then I'll drink the consomme from that with a little Parmesan cheese, and then I, fill the pot up with water again, and then boil it, and then I turn the heat off and let it, cool down, and then I put it in the fridge. And in the afternoon, the next day, I pull it out and have a nice stew there. I may add a few more other vegetables, bring it up to a boil, and then again have the consomme, and put some Parmesan on there and have that. And that's it. That's kind of my meal. Then the third day, I boil it up, and it's a really nice thick stew. So I then bowl up some stew, right? And then after I have my bowl or two of stew, I throw something else in there, boil it up, let it come to room temperature, put it in the fridge for the evening, and then next that's pretty much what I eat. Maybe one day a week, I go to one of those restaurants that has good Wi-Fi, and I can make a phone call, and I sit there pretty much all day long. I usually open up around 11, and I'll stay there from 11 till 4 o'clock, right? Reading and writing and looking at things on the internet and making a show or two. So that's it. Yep, everyone seems to be leaving. I'm getting a little tired myself. We've been on air now an hour and 31 minutes, and it's good to see you all. And I'll end with a prayer. This is a prayer for everyone's health, wealth, prosperity, happiness, and service to love's co-creation. I'm going to pray to Father Sky and Mother Earth and connect the prana, the photonic light of love's co-creation from Father Sky into the chi of Mother Earth, grounding it out, creating that circuit of love's co-creation within our world. And that's what animates our life. That's what actually we live on a planet of prosperity, and we have enough for everyone. In fact, that 80% of the world's population lives in poverty, physical, economic poverty, only goes to show the level of the negativity of the ego exists in our little illusion of a world. But it's actually a land of abundance and not one of scarcity. And that's why capitalism doesn't work, because it's based on scarcity. And we live in a world of abundance. So they have to basically have inequality to make capitalism work. So this is a prayer for everyone on earth to have what they need and share the rest. To live in love's co-creation rather than hate of the other. So our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. It was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without end. And Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and the hour of death. Amen. And every day and every way, let's take the peace of the earth and make it stronger through service to love's co-creation. Let us create this alternative aesthetic that would lead the human race into a better perspective and more of a harmonic homeostasis of our existence. And Father Sky, Mother Earth, bless us indeed, enlarge our territory, put your hands upon our shoulder and keep us from evil so we will do no harm. And I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, in the morning. Tomorrow's Sunday, day of rest, but I usually I get up around 5, and then either read or eliminate, and then go back to bed, or I might do a live show. But more or less, I'm here to serve you, the cadre, and the rest of you out there in the World Wide Web. Love you all. Have a good night. Sweet, sweet dreams. Good night. Sweet dreams, everyone.